It starts with a quiet hum in the back of the mind. Maybe you're scrolling through a feed at 2 a.m., or maybe you're standing in the middle of a grocery aisle, staring at a limited edition kitchen gadget you didn't know existed 30 seconds ago. In that moment, the world narrows. The item isn't just an object, it is a promise. It's the promise of a more organized life, a new hobby that will finally stick, or a version of yourself that is finally, miraculously, whole. You feel a surge of electricity, a brief, shimmering yes, as you click the button or toss the item into the cart. But as the receipt prints or the confirmation email lands, the shimmer evaporates. It's replaced by a cold, familiar weight in the pit of your stomach. You realize you've done it again. If you live with ADHD, this isn't just bad money management. It isn't a lack of discipline, and it isn't a character flaw. It's a neurological event. While the world sees a shopping spree, your brain is navigating a completely different relationship with reward, time, and self-control. And it's more common than you think. Roughly 1 in 5 adults with ADHD shows signs of compulsive buying. So we're going past the low dopamine cliches to find the real story behind the cart. Here's what the low dopamine TikToks get wrong. The ADHD brain isn't empty. The system that's supposed to regulate reward and pump the brakes is just wired differently. And 3 parts of it are working against you in the checkout line. First, the brake. Picture your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your mind. The part that's supposed to say, wait, check the bank account. Do we actually need this? In an ADHD brain, that braking signal fires late and fires weak. So once the go impulse is already moving, it's physically harder to stop it. Second, your brain runs on a different clock. A reward you could have right now feels enormous. The exact same reward 6 months from now barely registers. A $200 gadget today beats a healthier savings account in the spring, not because you're irresponsible, but because to your brain, now is screaming and later is a whisper. And third, the reward circuit runs on wanting more than liking. The chase, the hunt, the click, the it's on its way, pulls harder than the thing you actually bought. So the buy becomes the main event. The item is just the packaging the rush came in. So what does all of that actually look like in everyday life? It shows up in 4 places. We've all been there. $100 worth of specialized planners, high-end pens, and a desktop organizer. In that moment, you aren't buying stationery. You're buying the fantasy self, the person who is never late and always has a color-coded calendar. We struggle with structure on the inside, so we try to purchase it on the outside. But the follow-through is humbling. The high of the purchase almost never becomes the habit of using it. Because here's the truth underneath all of it. We aren't addicted to the stuff. We're addicted to the hope the stuff represents. The grocery store is a minefield. It's a high-stimulus environment where mental fatigue sets in within minutes. As you walk the aisles, every single choice drains the same tank. And by the time you reach the checkout, that tank is empty. Your brain's CEO has clocked out for the day. That's exactly why you find yourself grabbing 3 kinds of gourmet chocolate and a magazine you'll never read. The rush of that unplanned snack is your brain trying to refuel an empty tank with a quick hit of sugar and novelty. Then there's the phone in your hand. One-click checkout. Buy now, pay later. For most people, that's convenience. For an ADHD brain, it's a perfect storm because friction is your friend. Those few seconds of effort are exactly the window your brain's CEO needs to wake up and say, wait. Modern shopping is engineered to erase that window. When handing over cash becomes a face scan or a thumbprint, the pain of paying gets bypassed entirely, and all that's left is the reward. The pattern is clear. The more frictionless the buy, the sharper the risk. And it almost always ends the same way, the crash. Once the box arrives and the novelty wears off, and for a lot of us that fade comes fast, the high is gone. Psychologists call that fade hedonic adaptation, and what rushes in to fill the empty space is shame. Here's the part most people miss. Shame isn't just a feeling, it's a second stressor that drains your executive function even further. So you hide the packages from your partner. You leave things in their boxes for weeks because looking at them sets off the shame all over again. You're not lazy, and you're not sneaky. You're feeling the neurological aftermath of a chemical surge. Here's the question almost nobody asks in the moment. Not, do I want this? But, what was I feeling 10 seconds before I wanted it? Because for the ADHD brain, an impulse buy is rarely about the object. It's about regulating a feeling you didn't have words for yet. The cart is the symptom. The feeling is the cause. And it's almost always one of three. The first is boredom, or more precisely, understimulation. An ADHD brain that isn't getting enough input goes looking for it, and add to cart is one of the fastest, cheapest hits of novelty on the planet. You're not shopping, you're self-medicating a flat, restless afternoon. The second is rejection. If you saw my last video, you know about rejection-sensitive dysphoria, that full-body sting when you feel criticized, left out, or not quite good enough. A purchase can feel like an instant patch for that wound. I'll feel better the second this arrives. The package becomes an apology your brain is writing to itself. And the third is overwhelm. When life feels chaotic and out of your hands, buying something, anything, is a way to grab back a sliver of control. The planner, the storage bins, the productivity gadget aren't really about organization. They're about feeling, for 30 seconds, like you're finally on top of it all. Here's why this matters. You can delete every saved card and set every 24-hour timer in the world, but if you never address the feeling underneath, your brain will just find a new pressure valve. The buying isn't the fire, it's the smoke. So before the next checkout, try one question, out loud if you can. What am I actually trying to fix right now? Sometimes just naming it, I'm bored, I'm hurt, I'm overwhelmed, drains enough pressure that the cart loses its grip. Psychologists have a blunt version of this. You can't tame a feeling you won't name. You're not weak for reaching for relief. You're a person with a nervous system trying to feel okay. The work isn't to shame the reach, it's to notice what you're reaching for. If you recognize yourself in these stories, please hear this. Your brain is not broken. It is simply wired for a world that didn't have next-day delivery and targeted algorithms. The shift from shame to management starts the same way. You stop punishing your character, and you start managing your blind spots. You build external scaffolds where your internal ones are shaky. Here's how. The 24-hour rule. Build yourself a cooling-off period. Put the thing in the cart, but you're not allowed to check out until tomorrow. Here's the trick. Half the time, the hit of adding to cart was the thing your brain actually wanted. By morning, the fantasy has quietly let go. Reintroduce friction. Delete your saved card from your browser and your phone. Make yourself get up, find your wallet, and type in all 16 digits. That tiny bit of effort buys your prefrontal cortex the 60 seconds it needs to finally shout, "Wait!" The price per hour mindset. Stop looking at the price tag. Instead, ask how many hours of your work this thing actually costs. That one question quietly hands the decision from the emotional part of your brain to the analytical part and turns a want into a cost. Bring in real support. And this one matters most. External tricks are powerful, but they are not a replacement for real care. Therapy, ADHD coaching, and in many cases medication, all have measurable effects on impulsivity and executive function. If the buying is genuinely hurting your finances, your relationships, or your peace, that deserves a conversation with a clinician, not just another life hack. There is no willpower trophy for going it alone. Diagnosis is not a label of limitation. It is a map for navigation. Once you understand that your shopping sprees are really a biological quest for stimulation, you can go find that stimulation somewhere else. In movement, in connection, in creative flow, without the heavy price tag of regret. You are more than your impulses, and your worth is not measured by the contents of your cart. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments which fantasy self you've tried to buy your way into. You'll find you're in very good company.